It's common knowledge that we usually get what we want by asking for it. But when it comes to God, it's not so simple. That's because God has placed certain conditions on the things we ask Him for. In the Bible, God reveals these conditions as the principle of faith. Simply stated, this principle requires us to place our trust in God and ask Him for those things that are in line with His will for our lives. The Apostle James says it like this in James 4, "You have not because you ask not." Why is it important to ask God in faith? If you want something from God, you need to show Him that you trust Him enough to give it to you. You can do this by praying, asking with faith, and by having the right attitude. When you ask God in faith, you're acknowledging that you can't do it on your own. You're also seeking God's will for you. This kind of prayer requires that you let go of any preconceived ideas about what you think God wants to give you. And it requires that you be open and patient to receive His answer. What does the principle of faith look like? According to the Bible, the principle of faith is more than just asking God for something. It also requires that you recognize that God is all-powerful. Approach God with an open heart and mind. Believe that God has good things in store for you. Have the right attitude towards God. Be willing to obey God and surrender your life to Him. Be patient and wait for God to answer your prayer. Be wise enough to discern what God has in store for you. Be bold enough to ask God for those things that you really need and that are in alignment with His will. Be forgiving and not hold a grudge when it doesn't arrive in your timing. The problem with asking for the wrong things is that it can lead to disappointment. You may end up waiting for something that never comes. There's no guarantee that God will give you what you want. If you ask for things that go against God's will for your life, there's a good chance that He'll say no because they're not good for you. There are certain things you should never ask God for. For example, don't ask God for things that are harmful to you. And be sure not to approach God with lots of requests but a closed heart and mind. He is not a genie in a lamp to grant wishes. Keep trying and don't give up. Keep trying to abide by the principle of faith and don't give up. Remember that God's timing is always perfect. And even if it takes you a while to see results, keep on asking. Be patient and wait for God to answer your prayer. God has made a promise to us in the Bible. He says that if we ask Him for something, according to His will He will give it to us, 1 John 3:22. He also promises that if we seek Him, we'll find Him. If you really want something, you've got to ask for it. And you've got to ask for it in faith, believing that it is already yours according to God's timing.